Okay, welcome back. So in this particular video, we're coming off of the last time what we did was we got our retargeting C file built in, right? The one we grabbed out of the L476 example. We've got that built. So it's building, but we're not actually doing much for our build. In fact, it's probably all getting stripped out when it actually compiles, except for the functions that we're overloading. Those will get put in. But we're not actually using this retargeting yet because we're not initializing it. So the first thing we've got to do is we've got to initialize it. So let's go over to Cube here. And actually, before I do that, what I want to do is I want to put a plug in for the book again. So if I go to the browser, this book here, this Mastering STM32, in chapter 5.3, it talks all about retargeting. So again, highly recommend go pick up that book and take a look at what he's doing in chapter 5, section 3. And again, this is for the second edition. I can't remember if that's true for the first edition, if that's the right section number. But anyway, his section on retargeting, go and read that because it'll explain basically everything that I've done in those videos, but I think it's helpful to kind of see it done. So what I would recommend is go and read that, and in there you can see where he does this initialization of the retargeting. And so it's very simple. And so all you're going to do is down here after you do the UART. Now, one thing that you'll learn about the CubeMX universe, you have to put the code in between these comments. If you don't, what'll happen is if you were to ever rebuild, add a peripheral in CubeMX and let it rebuild your code, in other words, write new code in there. If you violate, you put code that's not between these comments, like user code begin to, user code into, if you don't put it there, CubeMX will strip it. So make sure that you stay within those comments. Yes, they are comments, but they're being used by the CubeMX system to try to ascertain what part of this is how library code and what part of this is your code. And so we want to put it there, and I'm going to put in a function called retarget init and HUART2 semicolon. All right, so this function here is the function that's going to initialize our retargeting, right? And so HUART2 is the device that is the UART that we're going to be sending all of our print calls to. And so if I come up here, one thing I want to do is I want to include retarget.h, otherwise I'll end up with errors. I'm redefining it. Include, or it doesn't know what it is. Retarget.h. And we'll, yeah, that should be it. And so if you want to see where HUART's defined here, we can come back up here. So it is this UART handle. So that's our handle to this device, UART2. It gets created when we run this initialization function, or it gets loaded. It actually gets created. The handle gets created right there, but the UART gets set up here when you call this MX UART2 UART init function. All right, so and notice we're doing this retarget after we call that init. All right, so now we've got this UART2 device that we can attach to. And so down here, I am going to, right before we start the while loop, I'm just going to say printf system up and running. And then I'm going to explicitly put the new line, and the slash n is new line, and the slash r is line feed. And so New line will drop you down one. The R will bring you back to the first column on the left. And so, depending on what your terminal is doing, you can configure your terminal that's receiving these characters to do different things with those special characters. It might imply, /n might imply carriage return line feed, or it might not. That's, I guess, one of those things that never was settled as to the best way to do it. And so, all right, so you've got these, you've got this going. So I'm going to say Control S to save it. Let's go ahead and build it and make sure we don't have any errors. Okay, so it is built. And so we've got warnings here. Oh, it doesn't like the fact that I just called printf, but I don't have print, any sort of prototype for print. So let's come up here and let's fix that. So along with retarget, I should probably include stdio.h, where printf is declared, and then let's build it again. Yeah, always always go and check out your warnings, right? Make sure that you've got things, otherwise you may get not what you expect. And so notice our code has grown a little bit. It's more than doubled in size from our first from the base example, simply because we are bringing in printf, right? Printf is big, right? And it's even bigger if you turn on the floating point stuff. And so normally in the embedded version of printf, there's no floating point support, which means that if you have %f, it will ignore you in implementations where they don't have all the floating point stuff. The IEEE floating point stuff is actually a relatively big block of code. So it's stripped out in a lot of implementations. All right, so that's it for this video. I'll come back in the next one and we will we'll go ahead and look at the output of this when we do this print. Where it's going is we're gonna catch that with a console, but I want to put that in another video so that it's kind of a standalone thing. All right, so we'll actually take a look at those characters in our next video.